We're just getting older, world is getting colder, trying to get sober. Lord help me get stronger, world is on my shoulders. How we doing today? This is the 12 of 12 podcast, the podcast about real life, recovery, redemption, growth and development, because that's what this is about. And if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, do me a favor, tap that subscribe button, share for more. Also, if you need help with substance abuse disorder, severe mental illness, or know somebody who needs help with those things, please do not hesitate to contact us today. Our sponsors, First Step Recovery, you see the numbers up top. Contact them. They're here for you. They will help you. And like I said, even if you're not suffering from it, somebody else you might know might be. Help them out. Save a soul today. We have a special guest today, Josh.
Hey, how's it going, man?
How you doing, man? Pleasure for you to meet, man.
Yeah, about knowing somebody, man. I don't think there's anybody in this country that don't know somebody that's suffering from mental health or addiction. So
Yeah,
it's big.
That's a real thing, man. Like, everybody knows somebody.
Absolutely. I think I was watching a podcast or a YouTube video or something, and dude said we have a 9/11 every week, or every 3 weeks we have a 9/11. So like just from overdoses alone. So that means the amount of people that we lost on 9/11, which we celebrate, and we never forget, and they commemorate it every single year. That many lives are lost every 3 weeks in America just in overdoses alone.
Just think about that.
Yeah.
We have 9/11 coming up. It's coming up.
Yeah.
If you really just sit back and think about the amount of lives that are lost daily to
Every day.
addiction, to severe mental illness,
Yeah.
people taking their own lives. Because, once you realize something about the root of the problem that's leading people to using addiction, once you realize that it is a mental issue at the end of the day, then you can work at the root of that problem. Okay, where is it stemming from? Is it coming from trauma?
Yeah.
Emotional issues, anger, unforgiveness.
Absolutely.
What is it that's causing you to actually start using the substance? And basically, that's your way out. That's your way of escape.
Yeah. I mean, like I don't think anybody that chooses to pick up a drink or a drug is trying to enhance their life. You know what I mean? Typically you're either running away from something or trying to run towards something. I can only speak for myself, but I always had a lot of trauma, childhood trauma, and I never wanted to use that as an excuse. You know what I mean? But through therapy, treatment facilities, IOP classes, AA meetings, NA meetings, any type of step group or support group, I'm finally starting to just realize that's a reason, not an excuse. You know what I mean? I think even in infancy, they say, babies are very empathetic. You know what I mean? So even if there's trauma in the household at the age of an infant, you know what I'm saying? They're already going to build up defense mechanisms. You know what I'm saying? To ignore, or to shut out what's going on in the house. If there's yelling, if there's fighting, if the mother or the father are just going through hard times and stuff, I saw studies that say that, that's what's kind of influenced all this ADD and ADHD and everything is, being able to drown that out.
Yeah, it's like an emotional block out.
Absolutely.
You just emotionally just block that thing out to the point that you don't even remember. Like some people, they might go and say, man, you know what? I know something. I could remember something happened to you, but I'm just not really knowing. But then you could be the same age and something that's not even that big of a deal, you remember.
Absolutely.
That's because that trauma was so bad that you just emotionally blocked that out to the point that, I think God built us with that mechanism to be able to, that we just shut down at that age.
Oh,
it's hurting, crying, like people dealing with the hurting little girls inside of them, the hurting little boys inside of them. They're still trapped at that age.
Absolutely.
And then they still have that unforgiveness from that age. It could be from an infant when the mother or father might have just been saying, I hate this little kid, or you're no good, or somebody bullying them at the playground or something and talk bad to them and it hurts them. And they could just be small, and they think that those frequencies that come out, like the Bible says, life and death in the tongue. So they're speaking that death upon that child instead of speaking that life
when people speaking these word curses upon them, then it's affecting that child. It's affecting that child at that age. And a lot of them, like you said, they have to go through that block to be able to continue to move on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I know for myself, man, we moved a lot when I was growing up. You know what I mean? 3 different states, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cities, you know, new schools all the time. I'm 10 years.
Why were you moving around so much?
I mean, we were broke, you know, and it was really just my mom and eventually my stepdad, like going from family member to family member, you know, like, you know, they'd be struggling and, you know, not making ends meet, getting ready to get evicted, and an aunt or an uncle or, you know, my grandparents or their parents would say, hey, why don't you come here? So we would just pack everything up and leave, you know. You know, they were dealing with their own trauma and issues, and a lot of times you get it mistaken that if you run away, that you can leave your problems behind. You know what I'm saying? But wherever you go, there you are. So, you know, your problems are just going to stay with you. That's like trying to shake your shadow. You know what I mean? It's not going to work. But unfortunately, like what that showed me growing up is that everything was temporary. You know what I mean? You know, I would move in with an aunt and an uncle and cousins, and, you know, I'd fall in love with my family. You know, I'm just introducing to them. It's the first time I'm meeting them. And then once you get comfortable and you feel at home and you make friends in the neighborhood, you're no longer the new kid, the stranger, boom, we up and move. You know what I mean? And it's from Texas to Kentucky, Kentucky to Michigan. So everywhere I went, I had some weird accent. I'm 10 years older than my sisters, so I was always the new kid. I was always the stranger. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of, you know, bullying, picking on, you know, and just a lot of trauma, just like hardships. And, you know, that went on all through life until, you know, till I became a teenager, you know, 12, 13. We were living in Michigan, and it's weird, but it seems like the bad kids and the trouble kids are more inviting than some of the, you know, better off children. So it's like the first group of people that invited me into their circle, you know, they drank, you know what I mean? And that's what kind of introduced me to it, you know, wanting to fit in, tired of being different, you know. So, like, you know, I can find the qualities in that. You know, I've never met a stranger. I feel comfortable talking to whoever. I'm resilient, but the unfortunate part is I still have trouble thinking everything's temporary. You know, every relationship I've been in, because I'm always waiting for them to leave. You know, and if you stay like that in that relationship and you don't open up, you know what I mean? They get tired of, you know, being with somebody that's just not there emotionally.
Yeah,
you know
so
what I mean?
so basically throughout from the trauma that you went through in your life, you became to the point that you just go into relationships emotionally detached already.
Absolutely. Like I'm walking in waiting for it to be over.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And even in relationships where, like, I mean, I want to say I loved them, but I guess if you can't love yourself, you can't love, you know, you can't give what you don't have. But I loved them to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
You know, I loved them how I knew how to love. You know what I mean? Which, you know, you learn that through family and friends in your childhood. So I loved them the best I could, but, you know, they would just, you know, just never worked out. You know, it just gave me more excuses to keep drinking and keep drugging.
Yeah,
You know?
I noticed that a lot of times with me when I was going through certain issues and things like that. You know, either it be trauma, unforgiveness, and things like that, or it could just be one failed relationship that hurts you so bad that you, like you said, you walk into situations now looking for the worst inside of a person. You know
Absolutely.
what? Like, you know what, man? I know this is just gonna end up bad. Not knowing that this person isn't this person that you dealt with.
Absolutely.
So now the problem is that you automatically, people, you can't do this. We're gonna tell you this right now. You cannot go into new relationships thinking that this person is going to do the same thing as this person does or did.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes some characteristics could be similar. We're all human beings at the end of the day. And that's what people have to understand. Nobody's perfect. Some people handle getting mad certain ways. Other people handle stressful situations certain ways, you know, and they might talk differently, act differently. Some people are nonchalant, but it doesn't mean that they don't care. Some people might just not talk as much. It doesn't mean they don't care. And some people could talk a lot and they don't care.
Yeah.
So it just, because you're in a situation or in a relationship or a friendship with a person who might have acted this way, and you might see something that reminds you of another person in your past that hurt you, you can't start treating that person like that, because that person could have very well good intentions for you in your life. But just because that other person didn't, you know, you're putting the face of the past in your future.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you know, and it's crazy, like how for myself I can just keep doing the same thing over and over again, and then being surprised when the same stuff just keeps happening over and over again. You know, whether it's a relationship, a job, anything. It's like I do great in the beginning. You know what I mean? Because you're trying to show off, you're trying to impress. You know what I mean? And I'm very codependent as well. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, like, you know, I find my happiness and my worth out of how much they, you know, are happy with me and how much, you know, I make them happy. You know, which is unfair to them because, you know, you end up getting a resentment because if they're having a bad day or they're just depressed and it has nothing to do with me whatsoever, I automatically get defensive and I'm like, hey man, don't I do this for you? Don't I do that? You know, I'm always here for you. I don't call you out by your name. I've never put my hands on you. Like, you know, how dare you be unhappy? How do you not have a good day when I do all this for you and I bend over backwards? Which it's absurd behavior. You know what I mean? And it's troubling because it's like, I think the hardest thing in the world is to know when you're not doing right, know what you need to change, but still unable to like just do it. You know, because like anything that's going on in your life, anything, no matter what it is that you don't like, you're choosing to be in it. You know what I mean? Because all you have to do is just change it. You know what I mean? If you're watching too much porn, I mean, take the app off your phone, take it off your computer. You know what I mean? If you're cardiovascular, your heart, you know, and you want to feel better, I mean, get off the couch, stop Netflix, and start walking around. You know what I mean? If you want to have a good relationship, you know, stop talking, listen. You know what I mean? Communicate and be honest. You know, that's another thing, you know, being codependent or just being afraid to express yourself because of low self-esteem or whatever the situation is. It's you catch yourself saying what you think they want to hear, you know, and then you wonder why, like, it doesn't work out. Well, I mean, if you don't communicate and tell like how you feel and what you want and what you expect and put up healthy boundaries and explain those boundaries to another person, you can't be upset when your feelings get hurt because they step over that line. You know, they're not mind readers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you had to look into yourself and find some accountability in your actions.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So tell me, when did you first start using?
Well, I mean, honestly, the first time I ever like put a joint to my mouth, as sad as it is to say, I was like 5, kindergarten. Me and my older cousin found the old Frisbee underneath the couch, half joints in it and stuff like that. I mean, I don't even know if I knew how to smoke. I don't remember being high or anything like that, but I do remember putting it to my lips. You know, just mimicking what I saw from my parents, my aunts, my uncles, neighbors, and all that. Alcohol, I think I might have been 8 or 9. Lived with an aunt and uncle. They partied a lot. That's when I learned how to pump a keg. That's when I learned how to play poker, quarters. And, you know, I'd be pumping the keg and beer would foam over on the ice, throwing the ice in my mouth. Next morning, they're all still asleep, hungover, you know, sipping a little bit of beer out of the bottom of cups, last alcohol at the bottom of a bottle. But as far as like my first high, I was 13 years old, 7th grade. First time I smoked weed and it felt something from it. And it was euphoric. I mean, I wasn't scared anymore. I didn't care if people liked me or not. I mean, it just like all the fear just was subsided, was gone. All the anxiety, gone. Same thing with alcohol. And as soon as I felt that, you know, I don't even think they do it nowadays, but they used to have Dare when we were kids.
Yeah, you know what? I remember that, man. They always had Dare, man, and I don't really see stuff like that no more.
No, I
it's
don't.
Crazy, right?
Well, it's crazy too because like it has its pros and its cons. You know, they emphasize like all this horrible things that have happened to you if you use. You know what I'm saying? But they don't talk about how it's like it escalates and how it seems cool in the beginning, but it'll cause problems later. Because, you know, I had it in my head, like, you know, if I did that drug, man, it's going to be a life ruiner. Well, then when you do the drug and there's no consequences, you know, you think they're lying about cocaine and every drug, you know, so then you're just more apt and more open to try it all. And I did. I mean, anything they threw at me. I was 13 years old, did coke for the first time, marijuana, mushrooms, acid, like pills, like anything they would hand me. You know what
13,
I mean?
you were just
13 years old, just getting it.
Dang.
And I loved it. I loved just to not feel and just to be different. Like it felt awesome. And like I just continued to self-medicate because now fortunately I got the knowledge. I was diagnosed bipolar in 2015 after a suicide attempt, and I realized I was just self-medicating. You know what I'm saying, to feel normal. I think that's what a lot of people that don't suffer from this illness don't realize, is that when we use, it makes us feel normal. It makes us feel like we have control. Where most people that don't battle with addiction, they have the beer or two or the 2 or 3 drinks, and when they start to feel like they're losing control, they don't like it. You know what I mean? So they stop. Or people that have that addiction inside of them, it gives us control. It makes us feel normal. You know what I mean? And that's all we're really chasing, is to feel normal. To look like everybody else, to feel like we think everybody else feels. And it's just a scary game, because typically if you're unlucky, the consequences don't come quick. You know what I mean? It takes time, and by the time you start getting the consequences, you're so enwrapped in that lifestyle that it feels normal, that you're scared to do anything different, because it's change is scary. You know what I mean? And even if you are an addict, even if you are suffering consequences, it almost feels more comfortable staying in that hell than doing something different, because you just don't know what it's going to be like.
I kind of see, like with using drugs, is they want a sense of normalcy, like you were saying, that when you did, you felt like things were normal at the time. You felt normal. And I think the reason why is because you're already going through mental issues. A lot of people, you use drugs, you're going through, let's go to the deeper root of the problem. It has to do with the mental. So you're dealing with anxiety, you're dealing with stress, you're dealing with PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, dealing with bipolar issues, you're dealing with things that's going on inside of your mind, inside of your heart, inside of your soul. And while you're dealing with these things, when when your mind just continuously goes, and then you take a substance, and then all of a sudden you're not worrying about as much. You're not stressing about as much. You're not worried about what so-and-so did. Now you're feeling normal, because these voices in your head isn't telling you to worry about this, because your body's like actually changing at that point in time to a different person. So then it's like, I think they get hooked on that, like you said, that euphoric feeling of, what, I don't care right now. Yeah. I don't care right now. Now, is it normal to feel like you don't care? Truth of the matter is, it's not. We're supposed to care. We're supposed to know what's going on. We're supposed to be sober-minded. We're supposed to deal with life issues and think our way through these issues to become better people, But what happens is, when people who are going through these mental issues and they're going through this turmoil, inner turmoil, they're battling the demons inside, because, you have to battle those demons inside. You leave them dormant. Me first, I like to say, I give it to God. Give it to the Lord Christ, and understand that He's the healer, the redeemer. So I pray to the Lord, and then I know I got to make certain steps to do that. I had to look within myself and be like, you know what? Did I really forgive this person who hurt me? You know what? I need to stop stressing as much, because it says I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, so I can't really worry too much about that. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But if you're worrying yourself to death, you're going to be stressing about something that you didn't even got no control over.
Absolutely.
You can make plans, but don't stress about those plans. And I think that when people doing that, they just continue to use, because they're just like, to the point that it affects them physically, because then they go to the harder drugs, that now it's affecting your physical, not only your psyche.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking on that, man, it reminds me of the Serenity Prayer. I'm sure everybody's heard it, but for the few that don't, it's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And a lot of people talk about that, accept what you cannot change, and that's what hits them. But for me personally, man, it's that last bit, the wisdom to know the difference. Looking back, and even now, I'm getting better, but even now, it's like I would be so focused and put so much effort in either trying to change something that I had no control over, or just focusing on something that I had no control over, and then in trying to change that, and then accepting things that I had no business accepting that I could change. You know, that wisdom to know the difference. At least coming from me, that's that hit. You know what I mean? That's where you need to get. And you know, I'm jealous of people that have a relationship with a higher power. You know, that believe in God or Buddha or crystals or whatever it is. You know, unfortunately, you know, first 40 years of my life, I thought churches were for funerals and weddings. You know what I mean? That's the only time I went in them. I was never really introduced to any type of spirituality throughout life. You know, everything I learned was from television and just people bickering back and forth and you know, you know, this church is right, this one's wrong, this one's right, this was wrong, and all this nonsense. And you know, I never got the opportunity to have a relationship, you know, with a power greater than myself. You know what I mean? You know, that some call God. And I think that's what I've missed. You know, this isn't my first attempt at sobriety. I did, you know, January 29th, 2024, I got released out of incarceration after doing about 32 months. And, you know, I went to a place called VOA, not trying to give props to anybody else on here, but, you know, I went there, you know, listened, I did the things, I wrote the stuff down, I got the knowledge, but I never focused in on a fellowship of AA or NA or any type of group. I didn't get a sponsor. I didn't try to get friends, you know, like-minded, looking for recovery, looking for happiness. And, you know, I white knuckled it, as they call it, for 15 months. And I'll tell you what, man, it was the most miserable, horrible, loneliest time in my entire life. The 32 months I just served out was easier, and I felt less alone than the 15 months of just trying to hide away from drugs and alcohol, you know, and it eventually led to a relapse. You know, thank goodness that, you know, I was only out there for 13 days. All I lost was money. You know what I mean? I didn't lose my life or my freedom or nothing, but, you know, looking back now, I got 29 days today. Tomorrow I'll get my 30-day chip. But
Nice. Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. But like right now, man, I feel like I'm getting so much more quality sobriety in just these 29 days than I did the 15 months prior.
What do you think changed?
Well, I mean, I think first off, I walked through the door. You know what I mean? I decided to go into rehab. I wasn't brought here in handcuffs from one county jail, you know what I mean, to a treatment facility. The second thing is I accepted the fact that I was an addict and an alcoholic. I used to think because I sold more drugs than I used that I wasn't an addict. I thought because I didn't live under a bridge, I've never had an eviction, because I wasn't digging through trash, because I didn't steal from my parents, because I didn't, you know, I hurt people that cared about me, but I wasn't out doing the things that most people assume is addict lifestyle. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have track marks. I still shot, but because I always used a clean needle, I'm not a junkie. Because my dope was always good, I'm not a junkie. It's just ignorant thinking. And thank God for my relapse. You know, I started with a drink at 3:30. At 7 o'clock, I'm in a prostitute's hotel room smoking crack. You know what I mean? Just that quick. You know, and it really, having all this AA knowledge and the recovery knowledge in your head and going back out and trying to get high, it's fucking miserable, man.
Yeah.
You know, every hit you take, you're like, oh, here's another well-known spree. This is gonna be followed by guilt, shame, remorse. You know, and you're just like, it's miserable. And like 13 days in, and I'm just like, I have a problem. Like I really acknowledged I did that step one and accepted the fact that I was powerless over drugs and alcohol. Because like I went over just to have a drink, just to get a little shooter. And then I'm thinking, you know what, economically, it's cheaper per ounce if I get a handle. You know, I might as well get the handle plus ginger ales and 6-packs. I don't want to waste all that ginger ale on just one drink. And that's that sick thinking, man. That's that addict thinking, you know, justifying it, you know, and then like it automatic. I mean, as soon as I got a little in me, I was like, now I want a honey. You know what I mean? And you know, and you go out, you do the thing, and then she's like, hey, I got some crack. And it's like, man, I love crack. Why not? You know, 6 grams later, I went over there to spend 30 minutes. I left at 10 a.m. the next day, 6:30 at night till 10 a.m. in the morning. Go through 6 grams of crack, spend about $600. Then I'm back at my little crappy hotel. Because, you know, my attitude and behavior, even though I was clean and sober for those 15 months, my attitude and behavior got me fired from a job. You know, the job I had, I'm not going to say their name, but they're a really good place to work for. You know, they offered housing. So I'm living in the house, lose the job, I lose the housing. You know, I got all this time. I've been doing good. I got money saved up. Well, what am I going to do? I tried to call around some places. I said I had too much clean time. You know, which is crazy. Which I found out later that First Step would have took me in, even though I had 15 months clean, because I was struggling and I still battle mental illness. So anybody out there thinking they got to use to get back into a treatment place, call First Step. Those other places that tell you no, but call First Step. You know, me trying to budget, I go to the cheapest, grimiest hotel I can find in the city because it's cheap. I go there, I'm surrounded, you know, by that lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know, 2-3 days in, I got a case of the efforts. I'm not trying to curse on your program. You know, I had that effort attitude. So, you know, I was like, oh, great idea. I'll just go drink a little. That way I'll fail a drug test, you know, for alcohol. I'll get into a treatment facility. You know, that was really my intentions. You could have put me on a lie detector, all that stuff, man. I'd have passed with flying colors. I was going across the street to get like a shooter, or get one like tall boy beer, just something to make my urine test positive for something so that I could get back into a place, you know, that was safe. And as soon as I walked in that place and I'm surrounded by all that alcohol, that addict just took over. You know what I mean? Like, I'm walking back and with the big old handle in my hand, and I'm like, why did I have to get so much damn alcohol? You know, I don't want to waste it. You know what I mean? And it's just that's the craziness, man. That's the insanity of this disease, man. You know, it's not just the physical allergy, man, but it's that mental obsession. You know, that can convince yourself, no matter what the consequences are, that what you're doing is a good idea. And it's just it's sad. It's hard.
Yeah, we start making excuses for ourselves. Oh, it's not too bad. Oh, we're just gonna do this one little shot. Some people might be able to have a drink and then that's it.
Yeah.
You know, other people can't do that.
No.
Other people cannot do that. You know, so it's like, if you know what your trigger is. You know you. And that's the biggest thing about it. You know you. You know how you are.
Absolutely.
Don't get caught up in a situation where you're doing something and you know it's going to be your downfall.
Yeah.
You done lost your job. And like you said something at the beginning of the show, you were doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Yeah.
You know what? I could control this time. You know what? I can go over here to this area. I can dibble and dabble in this a little bit, and I'll be okay. I'm here to tell you you're not.
Nah.
If you done did it before, over and over again, and you still in that same situation, you're not good. There's something going on in your mental. And then when you get clean, and if you're still having these things that's going on and you feel like you're just being dragged through, your life is miserable, you're going through, you need help.
Yeah.
You need help, because then you can get to a point where you're right at the breaker point. But all you got to do is reach out, but you're thinking you're doing it yourself. I'm here to tell you, you can't do it yourself, people. You can't do it yourself.
You can't.
A lot of people try to do it themselves. You know, you have to get that higher power. You have to turn to God and then realize that, you know, it is what it is, because otherwise your mental will go to the point that you could end up having a relapse.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. It's like there's a big difference between sobriety and recovery. You know what I mean? So I feel like sobriety is just staying away from it. You know, recovery is, you know, getting into a fellowship. You know, whether it's CR, your local church, AA, NA, people that have gambling problems, Sex Anonymous, like whatever your issue is.
Get into something.
You got to get into something, and you don't have to just share all the time, but you got to make, I don't want to say friends, but you got to get a supportive group of people around you, man, because like you have to have a sense of purpose. Whether your purpose is checking on Bill or Jan or Frank or whatever, you know, having a home group, going somewhere consistently, so people can call you on your stuff, man, and not only that, but like, you know, you have that sense of purpose, man, you know, because without purpose, you know, what's the reason? You know, because like, I don't know, like you were talking about, you know, we lie to ourselves. Like anybody that's been dealing with an addict and feel like they lie to you all the time, I promise you, they lie to themselves more than anybody else. You know, and they tell you they want to quit, and they swear they're going to quit. They mean it. They truly mean it. But they give in. They give in to that mental obsession, man. It's truly an obsession. It's truly a disease. You know, and I finally accepted that fact. You know what I mean? You know, I have to treat it as if I'm allergic, like someone allergic to peanuts. I have to avoid it. I have to stay away from it. I can't let it touch me. You know, because like I know I'll do it. You know, maybe one day after completing steps and good sponsorship and and years of in this, you know, and I build up that defense. I have that psychic change, the thinking different. I might be able to walk into a bar, play a game of pool, shoot darts, man. I like doing that. I might be able to go to a bowling alley and bowl with some friends. I might be able to date a girl that likes to drink. You know what I mean? But like does it responsibly. She's not an addict. But like right now, I can't risk it. I can't risk it because the consequences are just too much, man. They're just too much.
So you're on your path right now. You've been going. Right now you're 30 days. How many days clean?
29. I'll be 30 tomorrow.
Almost 30 days clean.
Yep.
You're back on it. What are some of the things you have planned for your future? Even though it's one day at a time, what are some of the goals that you have in your mind to try to initiate on your road to recovery?
Well, you know, I think when it comes to goals, man, you want to set them small. You know, make some smart goals. You know what I mean? Do small, little, achievable ones. You could have that grand scheme thing. You know what I mean? But like, you gotta have little goals to get to it. Otherwise, you know, it's too difficult. So like, you know, right now, I want to complete this program, graduate. I have a sponsor. I recommend anybody to get a sponsor, no matter what you're doing. Like I said, it doesn't matter what program you're in. Every single program has a thing where like someone sponsors you, someone you look up to, someone that can show you the way, that knows it and been where you've been. I got a sponsor. I'm on step 2. You know, I got all the work done. Going to do to step 3. So, you know, my short-term goals is complete the steps, graduate this program, get a job, have my own place again. You know what I mean? I haven't had anything in my name, which if you're not on the leash, you're homeless. I just want to tell you that whether you're on a couch or living with your lady or your fella, if your name's not on the leash, you are homeless. I don't want to be homeless anymore. I want to have my name on a lease. I would like to have a career, not a job. During that 15 months, man, I got my peer support certificate. You know, I would like to help others. You know, whether it's just being a sponsor or, you know, working for, you know, a rehab facility, a peer support, you know, anything like that. So, you know, those are kind of my long-term goals. You know what I mean? Is to help others, have a roof over my head with my name on the lease, and you know, rebuild a relationship with my son. You know, I got a 12-year-old son. I haven't even heard his voice in 5 years, and as much as I want to put that first, you know, my sponsor told me put God first, recovery second, myself third, and everything else in life would fall in place.
Yeah, it will.
Yep. So I'm just trying to take good orderly direction, man, and you know, try to be a better me tomorrow than I am today. And if I just do that every day, man, I think any goal I have or any goal I want to have in the future will be attainable.
Hey man, bud, you heard it. Well, he just told you it's achievable, but you got to believe you're able to do it.
Yeah.
You got to know you're able to do it. There's tools, there's steps. Get yourself a strong support system, and let's make it happen. Let's fight this addiction. Let's fight this mental disease that people are going around with. Let's change the mortality rate of people who's dying at a younger age from so many overdoses or throwing their lives away.
Absolutely.
Let's change society. Let's do this together.
Yeah.
We're here for you. Thank you so much for coming on, Josh. Go ahead, tell the people now, man, they're here for you.
Yeah. If I have advice for anybody, any of you that aren't dealing with addiction or mental illness, be compassionate for people, and you know, talk to your local senators, congressmen, or something, man. But we need to quit punishing people because they're not making these choices. They don't have a choice. It's an addiction. It's a disease, and you can't punish away a disease. You need to heal it. So you know, send people to treatment, not to prison, and be more compassionate about the people you see out there struggling, because they're not happy to be there either. I know you might not like seeing them underneath that bridge or on that street corner, but I promise you, they don't want to be there either. You know what I mean? So just show some compassion to your brother.
Show some compassion for your brother. You hear that? That's great advice right there. We're all human beings.
Yeah.
God loves us. So you're created in the image of God, man. We need to step up and start doing better. Have some compassion. Have some true love.
Facts.
Don't try to kick a person when they're down. Doesn't mean take care of them like they're babies, but give them a hand up instead of just throwing them to the gators,
Yeah.
throwing them to the jail cells, the prison cells. When you know that it's an issue that's going on inside of them, it's an issue they need help with within themselves and within their minds. within their spirits, within their souls. You know what I say? God first, people. And then after you get that right, focus on yourself. And then after you do that, you'll be able to help somebody else.
Absolutely.
Have a blessed day.